put it on Airbnb the day after we got back. The next day we were booked through October.
That's fantastic.
Yes, it's going to help a lot because his savings would not last very long if he didn't have some other source of income. And unemployment hasn't kicked in yet. They're still under review. So he has literally no income. So this is, yeah, we just had our first renters arrive today, actually. It's amazing, just like that. And it's not like it's like every week somebody new. There was a couple who, with their 2 kids, and they rented it for a month. They just wanted to get out of the city.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that in Baltimore.
Well, I mean, if the kids aren't in school, or you didn't, because a lot of people opted out even if the school was opening partially, people are like, I'm not doing that. So, and if everyone's working from remote, there's absolutely no reason to be cooped up in an apartment. So, and it's the perfect place to let kids run around. And you don't have to worry about anybody coming into contact with them. So, yeah. It's a relief. But I'm not going to help him clean it. I'm not going to even go with him up to the house. Because, like, when I have some time off or whatever, like, there's no reason that I want to rest. I don't want to be cleaning the house. This is his thing. Because he, like, has this amazing way of, like, being one of these helpless men type. Who are like, what do you do here? How do you do this? Maybe you should just show me. I'm not doing it. What time is it? Is it late?
It's 6:24.
Oh, where's Serge? We might even be live right now. When does the live stream kick in?
Oh, yeah, I should have put the live stream on.
Huh?
I should have put the live stream on. I wasn't even thinking. Oh, Sue Wilkes home. Hi, Sue. Yeah. Yeah, I just realized that it's 6:24.
Shabbat Shalom. We have returned to our live stream technology, which affords an opportunity for Cantor Ayelet Porzakansky, myself, and Miriam Daly to be gathered in the sanctuary together. So we haven't had a chance to do this in quite some time. We've been Zooming services and very often accompanying ourselves. So here we have an opportunity for the three of us in a setting that we are long accustomed to, but for the past 6 months almost not able to be together. We have air filters in our sanctuary as we take these kind of baby steps, I guess, back toward being able to use our sacred space. Last Sunday, our assistant preschool director, Jen Armisnow, and her groom, Cliff, were gathered on this bima as we had our very first life cycle, physically limited, distant, 25 people max. Friday nights, we are going to continue to have but our Clay Kodesh, our service leadership here, for at least the foreseeable future, but Saturday morning, starting tomorrow, Zoe Dovas will step forward in a limited gathering here of 25, and our live stream technology and a little help from FaceTime as we gather to celebrate her coming of age, as we very slowly and cautiously move back in the direction of the utilization of this sacred space. You'll hear all about all of the upcoming events for the High Holy Days. Also an opportunity, if you'd like, on the second day of Rosh Hashanah to be present for a limited amount of time with a limited number of people here in the sanctuary to get the feel and the flavor of the holidays. That opportunity will present itself as well. But on this final Shabbat before the celebration of the new year, it's a chance for the Cantor and Miriam and I maybe to take off a little rust from leadership. We are back to using the PDF, which you can follow along with. It's downloadable from our website. I like to say, whether I'm on Zoom or live stream, you could just follow along and say Amen at the right places. It'll work just fine. There's no visual tefillah. We're not projecting anything on the wall quite yet. I know that our camera goes from about the American flag to the edge of the Israeli flag. And Miriam is off in the distance, and maybe before we say goodbye, we'll all wave hello to everyone. But we are still getting used to some of this technology. And I want to invite you to turn to what I believe is going to be the third slide in the PDF, which is our candle lighting. And I am going to light Shabbat candles and invite you to join in with doing that from your home as the cantor then leads us in the singing of the bracha. See if I can actually get this to work. There we go. We light our shamash.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
We move to our next slide as we read together in the English. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand and wonder before the mystery of creation. And there are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we are reminded that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. We embrace Shabbat not merely as sacred time, but also as the sacred embodied, as our beloved who returns each and every week. We await Shabbat's return as bride or groom, king or queen, friend or lover. I invite you, when we get to the final stanza of Lecha Dodi, the next two slides, that will let you know it's time to rise in body and or spirit as you are able. Face an entryway to your home and invite Shabbat to come and join us.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamo v'zachar b'diburecha tishmi'anu el hamiyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'Shem u'tiferet ve'litchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'necha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri ki ba'oreh kumi ori uri shir daberi kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala
invite Shabbat.
בואי ושלום, עתירת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמונה עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Having invited Shabbat to enter the sanctuary with us, I want to take a moment to invite you, having invited Shabbat to join you at home, to wish those who are gathered with you Shabbat Shalom. If you are at home, I also want to invite you to take a look out, if you're able, through your window, see the beginnings of this time of sunset. We add a little extra time to our Shabbat. Wave to a neighbor, come back to the screen, and make that effort to connect with all of us here in the sanctuary and across the airwaves. We're going to join with the cantor in Psalm 92, our next slide, Mizmor Shir, L'Yom HaShabbat, the psalm with which the Levites greeted pilgrims in Jerusalem on Sabbath Eve.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי אסון ועלינה, ועלי היגיון בחינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך רענן, מגלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
We are at our next slide, the Reader's Kaddish. If you've seated for Mizmor Shir, I'll invite you to rise again as you're able in body or spirit for Reader's Kaddish and then the call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
יתגדל ויתגדל שמי רבה,
Amen.
בעלמא דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם מעלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה
בריחו
לאלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה,
תושבחתה ונחמתה,
דמירן בעלמא ואמרו
אמן. Like to have a seat at this time, we turn ahead to the next slide, the English of our creation prayer, as we read together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
Amen.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, נגי יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. The next slide.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי
אצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We join on our next slide in the English together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Micha Mocha on the next slide.
Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osef ele, Nora tehilot osef ele, Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, B'kei yam lifnei Moshe Miriam, Zeli, Zeli, anu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Nora Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Baruch Shemo.
גאל ישראל.
Our next slide, Hashkivenu.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. ברוך אתה, אתה אדוני הפורס סוכת שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו, ועל ירושלים שלום, ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו, ועל ירושלים שלום. שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל.
More than Israel has kept Shabbat, has Shabbat kept Israel. The words from Exodus 31, V'shamaru v'nei Yisrael, our next slide.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We prepare to arise in body and or spirit as we face toward the capital, our spiritual capital, toward Jerusalem, and we turn our prayers to the heavenly realms, hoping that the throne room on high will be receptive to the offerings of our people. More than merely personal prayers or petitions on Shabbat, we offer our praises for the gift of life and peoplehood and acknowledgement of our covenant with the Creator. I invite you then, as you are able, to arise at this time. We're at our next slide, the kavanah that prepares us for tefillah. Adonai Svatai Tiftach.
That my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע.
מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללו הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. And if you'd like to have a seat at this time, or if your custom is to remain standing through the end until the peace prayer, invite you, whichever your custom is, to observe it. We join together in the English. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha-Shabbat. Next slide, we join together, ever-present one. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you. In this land, in Zion, restored in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. Together on our next slide, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which sustains us day by day. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, adov shemcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. And we arrive at the prayer for peace in the evening, Shalom Rav, a great abundant peace, as we join in singing with the cantor. And if you'd like to have a seat.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
There is a blank slide following the prayer for peace, an opportunity for us to script our own words, our own silent prayer and meditation, considering the week that's passed and our aspirations for the week yet to come.
לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי אדוני צורי אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי אדוני צורי אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך
כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. והעיקר לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר לא לפחד כלל. The whole wide world is a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge. The whole wide world is a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge. And the most important thing is not to be afraid at all. And the most important thing is not to give fear a hold. The whole wide world, Kol ha'olam kulo, Gesher Tsar Ma'od, is a very narrow bridge. The ha'ikar, the essential teaching, Lo lefached klal, do not give in to fear. These are the words of Reb Nachman of Bratslav. 19 years ago, in the AM hours, many of us were at the Brooklyn Heights Promenade, standing with our families, friends, neighbors. We gathered in that bright sunlight, those perfect blue skies, while the illusions that had insulated us were blown away like the smoke pouring out of the Twin Towers. The many bridges that we could literally see from that vantage point on the promenade no longer seemed so wide or so secure. On that day, in those early hours, we were shocked, numbed, frozen, having traversed into a reality that was more surreal than any of us could have imagined. On that day, we knew denial and bewilderment, fear and grief. Never before in the history of our country, or certainly of our city, had our personal sense of security and insulation from the troubles of the rest of the world been so unequivocally shredded, frozen in fear. Frozen in fear. That is what those fanatics wanted of us who survived. They gave us a taste of fear, like the first rush of salt water when one is pulled under by the ocean's unexpected undertow. As Rabbi Nachman would counsel, the essential thing is not to the fear. Reb Nachman wasn't commenting on our emotional state. He was instructing us concerning how to respond to the discovery of the narrowness of the bridge. Lo lefached klal. When you discover the ground you stand on is narrower, more dangerous, do not allow yourself to be seized by the fear. Yes, you'll be afraid. But we must not let fear freeze us, nor rule us, nor consume us. What we once perceived to be a broad and stable span has been revealed to be something less certain. What shall we do? Like those crossing a more narrow, uncertain bridge, we must do what those first responders in the Twin Towers told those who walked down countless floors in darkness and smoke. Take hands, hold fast, walk forward, do not stop. And if fear can paralyze us, then its twin, anger, can lead us to act precipitously, endangering us and all the rest on that metaphorical bridge with us. Like fear, anger, unrestrained anger, can destroy us. For such anger will satisfy our passions while it eats away at our souls. And we have seen the consequences of feeding such hatred, of those who allow themselves to become incubators of unrestrained hatred of an entire group of people or nation. They become guided missiles that cannot change course or outcome. This, of course, was the aim of the hijackers, that America become infected with the same virus of hatred that the hijackers themselves had allowed to possess them. If hatred is a virus, then that terrorist attack a generation ago on 9/11 was an attempt to plunge the hypodermic needle into our hearts and to affect America with that same contagion. What do we think? Has it succeeded? 19 years later, we find ourselves standing again at a crossroads. Will fear immobilize us? Will anger destroy us? What shall we take away from these past years, these past months? That moment of reaching a crossroads is echoed in this week's Torah portion, Parshat Nitzavim, which comes at almost the very end of the Torah, at the end of the book of Deuteronomy. In this portion, the Israelites stand on the borders of the Promised Land, and they recall that fear had immobilized their parents 40 years earlier, leading that generation to wander in circle through the desert for 40 years. 4 decades later, Moses, now 120 years old and fading fast, rallies this new generation as they stand at their generation's own crossroads, considering their own entry into the Promised Land. Atem nitzavim kulchem hayom. You stand this day, all of you, in the presence of the eternal your God, your tribal heads, your elders, your officials, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, even the stranger within your camp, from wood chopper to water drawer, to enter into the covenant with the eternal your God, which God is concluding with you on this day, to the end that God may establish you this day as God's people and be your God. As God promised and swore to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I make this covenant with its sanctions not alone, but both with those who are standing here with us this day in the presence of the eternal God, and also with those who are not with us here this day. That last phrase is often understood, and also with those who are not with us here this day. That phrase is often understood, I think correctly, as referring to future generations. But it's also possible that it is referring to all of humanity, all those there, Israel, and all those not there. The implication then is that God's covenant, a universal moral code, belongs not just to Israel, but to all of God's children, to every human being. This replaying in Deuteronomy chapters 29 and 30, this replaying 2 generations later of the earlier event at Sinai, this reaffirmation of covenant with a younger generation, could be seen as an antidote for the events at the beginning of human history in Genesis chapter 11, when at the Tower of Babel, God confounded not merely the speech and the tongues of all humanity, but also their hearts and their minds, as the text itself explicates there, in order so that they would not understand one another. In order that they would not understand one another. That lack of understanding, that fear of the foreign, that narrowing of vision, that dearth of empathy has been a human affliction ever since. Over the last 4 years, the world we live in seems to have become an ever narrower and narrowing bridge. Our disconnect and our fear ever increasing. Anger, resentment, and hatred have blossomed and ripened, not only on far shores, but also here at home. The impetus and vision to move forward are still present, but fear has blossomed and seized us. We have stumbled. We have taken steps back. We are tired and simply want to stop and rest. We are afraid. So too were our ancestors. See, I set before you this day life and prosperity, death and adversity. Choose life if you and your offspring would live, says the eternal God in this week's portion. Courage is not the lack of fear. It is the willingness to persevere through our fear, to deny fear the ability to control us, to overcome and rise above it. Yes, the bridge we are crossing in our generation has been revealed to be more narrow and precarious than we realized. But there is an antidote to our fear and anxiety. There is a covenant in which we stand together, stronger, this day and every day, with those who are here with us, yes, but also with those who are not here with us. All of us, the tribal heads, our elders, and our officials, all the women and all the men of Israel, our children, our spouses, even the resident alien among us, from wood chopper to water drawer, like all those who walked countless steps through darkness, we must take hands. We must hold fast. We must walk forward. We must not stop. We must not give in to fear. Kol ha'olam kulo, gesher tsar me'od, V'ha'ikar lo lifached klal. The whole wide world. Yes, it turns out it is a very, very narrow bridge. But the essential lesson is that we shall not give in to fear. Shabbat Shalom. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to offer my words and reflections, and I am deeply appreciative of all of you who share your comments. Please send them after Shabbat. They otherwise end up at the bottom of a long pile of emails. But please do share your words, your critiques, your insights. I really do look forward to reading them. Let me share names now as we prepare along with the cantor to offer our words for blessing and healing. You'll find on the next of the slides the setting of Debbie Friedman's Mishaberach. We call to mind on this Shabbat Eve and pray for healing and blessing for Maureen Tremblay, Shatana Carroll, Dr. Elizabeth Matthews, Bracha Bat Zipporah, Gloria Sancho, Eileen Balkin, Jenny St. George, Yigal Ben Alana, Arthur Rose, Aksan Faruqi, Elia Ben Label V'Geta Chenya, Chava Gittel Bat Freda, Yona Bat Ephraim Yechezkel Miriam, Fega Devasha Bat Shendel, Florence Spire, Yona Chaya Bat Miriam, Davida, Ruth Bat Binyamin V'Chava, Steve Brown Inns, Yona Tevya, Ben Label V'Geta Chenya, Renee Fishzone, Moshe Ben Leah, Nancy Lazar, Delroy Aline, and let me invite you to share aloud any names right now at home of those you are praying for.
מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
Kain Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will. We join on our next slide in our prayer for our nation and then for the state of Israel. Together, O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country sound in body and spirit. Amen. Together on our next slide. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Grant them deliverance and adorn them in a mantle of victory. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. And let us say, Amen. We turn now to our concluding prayers. Once again, as you are able in body or spirit to rise, we turn in the sanctuary toward the ark, at home perhaps toward Jerusalem, as we rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו וגוי להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרמים, הוא אלוהינו אינו אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We turn our thoughts to those gathered with us through the blessing of memory. We call to mind on this Shabbat Eve recent passings in our congregational community, the passing in Shloshim in the last 30 days in the month, Arthur J. Bielik Jr., father of Mary Lou Bielik, father-in-law of Aaron Marku, grandfather of Adam and Ben, the passing of Beverly Reckler, grandmother of Michelle Rabinowitz Carney, and remembered by Leon Carney, and great-grandma for Gable and Marlowe. We also call to mind Claire Schulman, former Queensborough president and dear friend of Rita Schwartz, and Larry Kozlov, Rita's nephew. We also call to mind family member, cousin Anita Giordano, remembered by Rhonda Epstein. We also call to mind those whose yahrzeit falls at this season. Dorothy Meltzer Robbins is remembered by Jeremy Robbins. Judy Cooper is remembered by Greg Cooper. Esther Sentner is recalled by Jack Dehovitz. Jeremy Musher is recalled by Rafi Musher. Nazim Gabay is recalled by Ed Gabay and Robin Slade. Nancy Brum is recalled by Nina Epstein. John Simmons is recalled by Mickey Kahan. Jay Schwartz is recalled by Matthew Schwartz. Harry Applebaum is recalled by Amy Applebaum. Carol Petrozino is recalled by Jennifer Wilkov. Samuel Fishzone is recalled by Renee Fishzone. Elias David First is recalled by Michael First. Mignon Centuria Schanfeld is recalled by Jack Dehovitz. Richard Rosen is recalled by Cecile Hanft. Inez Janger is recalled by Ted Janger. Justin Newman is recalled by Joe Nowak. Edith Dearling is recalled by Arthur Keller. Sidney Manet is recalled by Jerry Armine Klein. And of course, we call to mind the 2,977 lives that were taken on 9/11, both here in New York City, in Washington, D.C., and in the fields of Pennsylvania. If I have inadvertently mispronounced any of these names or failed to share aloud the name of a loved one who you are remembering, I want to take this moment to invite you to share that name aloud before we sanctify their names and memories as we sanctify God's name with the words of Kaddish. Please. We join together. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah b'yalma divra chirultei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayei chon uv'yomei chon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael b'agala uv'izman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei d'kudsha b'richu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu yasei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace on high cause peace and well-being, health and healing to descend upon us, all Israel, and our entire world. And let us all say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru
Amen.
yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
V'yimeru.
Amen.
Amen. The quickest of announcements, tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m., Healy Slackman will be leading on Zoom our Chavurah session. At 10:30 a.m., an invited list only, will be gathering here in the sanctuary as Zoe Dovas celebrates becoming Bat Mitzvah. This was her date selected long, long ago, and we're very pleased that she can hold on to it. It will be live streamed, and although Zoe will be front and center and unmasked, the rest of us will be in our masks and supporting her in her role in a clean sanctuary. So we'll have a maximum, as is now our policy for a life cycle, of 25 people physically distanced throughout the sanctuary. Tomorrow evening at 7 p.m.?
9 p.m.
Sorry, I got my time confused. At 9 p.m.
9 p.m.
is Slichot across Brooklyn with all of the various synagogues in Brownstone, Brooklyn, and their clergy participating, and the cantor and Rabbi Kane and I will all be on with different roles. This will be remote, of course, via Zoom. You can find that information on the website as well. And of course, a week from tonight is not only Erev Shabbat, it is also Erev Rosh Hashanah, and you'll need to get your Zoom webinar information. If you're still waiting for that, please let the office know on Monday. I know there's been a little bit of a hiccup with some of that, but we promise we will be on top of it, and everyone will have their virtual electronic tickets and the links that you need so that you can join in on next Shabbat for Rosh Hashanah. Is there anything I've left out that you can think of that's important? Okay, our closing song, and then stay on for Kiddush, is Adon Olam. Next slide.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa B'chetzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hove Vehu Yeh B'tifara Vehu Echad Ve'en Sheni Lehamshilo Lehachbira Beli Reshit Beli
Tachlit.
Ve'noz ve'hamisra ve'hu eili ve'chai goali ve'tzuachev li be'tzara ve'hu nisi u'manosi menat kosi be'yom ekra בעת אישן בעירה, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא.
אחת שאלתי מאת אדוני, אותה אבקש, שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי, לעזות בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. From Psalm 27. One thing do I ask at the season of the eternal. It is this that I seek, that I dwell in your house, O eternal, all the days of my life, and behold your sweetness, and gaze upon your palace. We'll join together and just pour some wine. When you are ready, if you'll lead us in Vayera Vayechulu.
וירא ויהי בוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים.
כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
לחיים.
And I invite you to join with us if you have your challah at the ready. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei avon bon appetit. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.